pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
It's my new bookish t-shirt. Get your best bookish t-shirt game on, Kim. Hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. It's a beautiful morning. I slept in. It's close to 9 a.m. I usually have this thing half edited by 9 a.m. I needed the extra sleep. And I have to make a note to self that when I get up this late, that this ugly little park close to my house actually has shade where the bench is. Because a lot of them, the shade is gone by 9 a.m. So I better get busy in case that's what happened here. Yes, there's my book nerd t-shirt. How apropos. I have 3 more bookish t-shirts to debut for you on the next 3 Friday reads. And then last Sunday was one of the best days of what are we, the spring? It feels like summer here. It's so hot, but it's not hot right now in the shade. But it's been so muggy already that I'm not walking. It's too hot to walk, so I'm back on my exercise bike. There is a man sneezing over there in the most obnoxious way. Like, you can hear it, I think inside every domicile on this block, you can hear that man's really arrogant sneeze. Like, Jesus Christ. You're probably gonna hear it again. Anyway, that's not what this video is about. I was talking about last Sunday. It was a nice day. Kenji has got a lot of family stuff he's dealing with, so he's often going home to see his parents in the kind of the suburbs of Tokyo. It's not really the suburbs, but it's greater Tokyo. It takes him about 2 hours to get there, so it's not that close. And he's been there most weekends for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I almost never see my husband, so we never fight. He doesn't know how many books I'm buying. He doesn't know anything about me. Our lovey-doveyness is restricted to text message. But last weekend he didn't have to go, so that meant he worked all day Saturday, which he always does. But Sunday he was around, so we had a nice lunch in the park, and then we went shopping. And we had to get a part for my electric recliner chair. And I'm not going to make a big story about this, but we went to the furniture store, and it just so happened that it was in the same building as the bookstore, Kinokuniya, and it was the last day of their 20% off sale, which I thought I might avoid this year, but it just happened to be in the area, so I got a small bag of books. And then I decided to push myself to go to the fat man's clothes store, Sakazen. There is only, I think I've said this before, I don't like to talk about my body, and you notice when I show my t-shirts, I don't really like to show my full figure. Japanese clothes sizes are so, I mean, if you're a large person, you can't find anything here. So I can't find anything here. There's one chain clothier, Sakazen, that has a plus size department for men's clothes. I actually don't know if they do for women. That's interesting. But the choices of clothes they usually have I don't like, but I found 2 new blouses, which I'll be debuting for very special occasions over the course of the summer. I've got all these bookish t-shirts to debut, and then for a very special occasion, I'll show you one of my new blouses. So last Sunday was one of the most normal days I've had in a long while. It was lovely. Get out of the house, spend time with Kenji, and do some shopping. I don't like shopping. I mean, when I find stuff I like, I'm happy, but then it's done. Thank God, let's go home. And the coronavirus vaccinations are now finally starting to roll out here. My age group in my particular city is now eligible. I got they call it a coupon. I got the coupon and like 75 pages of explanation and forms to fill out and stuff. It's all in Japanese, so of course I can't do any of that. Kenji started working on it for me and found out I can't actually make a booking until June 28th, but in the meantime he's got my profile all set up online for me and says that I can probably just go around the corner. Like, there's so many places you can go to get the vaccination once you're registered, and there's 1 or 2 that are like 2 blocks from our place, so that's great. In progress. I think I'll be at least partially, if not fully, vaccinated within the next month. So, that's what's going on. Bookish-wise, I have had an absolutely fantastic bookish week. I have finished 5 books. I just realized one of them I forgot to bring. But I finished 5 and I've started 1. No bails. Let's get at it. So I finished the little gay novella, Pete's Underpants by Bertie Marshall, a British queer novella. I did a Zoom chat with my buddy Dan, formerly of the Weird Book Club. I hope he's coming back someday. I think that chat will be ready to post in the next week or so. So I won't say anything about it. I'm not going to put a star rating, but it's not a book probably that anybody else is really talking about, so I don't know why I'm keeping you in suspense, but I'm going to keep you in suspense until that video goes live. We had a great chat about it last Saturday night. And I finished the collection of short stories from Mozambique. We Killed Mangy-Dog and Other Stories by Luís Bernardo Honwana, published in, I think, the early 60s. I read this one on the Internet Archive website. It's not a book that's available in e-format anywhere else. It's not like on Kindle or any other place, I don't think, and pretty hard to track down, but I would highly recommend it. I'm going to do a full review. It was fascinating. I knocked a star off because the title story, which was about 70 pages or something, I didn't like that story. I really liked or loved all the other ones, and the title story just left me cold and it made me kind of angry. And it is about killing a dog, but it's to show that's kind of as a metaphor of colonial violence. But I just thought it was really ineffectually done with way too much shouting, repetitive. Shoot it, kill it, and then just went on, and it just, I get the point. The others were fabulous. The story of the writer and how he wrote it, when he wrote it, is fascinating. So for all of those reasons, I am going to do a full review. And that was for the Mozambique thing for Invisible Cities. And I have finally finished, not finally in the sense that I'm finally finished. I'm so glad to be done. I'm not. It was a highly enjoyable novel that was a delightful 4-star read for me. A Quiet Tide by Marianne. This is an Irish novel. It's a debut, and it is a historical novel based on the Irish botanist Ellen Hutchins. I didn't know I was interested in botany before I read this, and in fact I am, a little bit more than I ever was. It is a very Quiet Tide is the title. It's a very quiet historical novel that was quietly and I think powerfully feminist. She was the only female botanist at the time in the very early years of the 19th century. I think she died at the age of 27 in about 1810 or something, and she had already made a name for herself, living in the quiet little seaside town in Ireland and discovering all this stuff about moss and seaweed, I think, but moss certainly. And she's celebrated today and quite famous posthumously. I really enjoyed it. This was recommended to me by Coveri Madavan, the Irish novelist, and on her passionate recommendation, I read it. I actually started it for Springathon. Certainly took me a lot longer than that to finish. I am going to do a full review because nobody else is talking about this book on BookTube, and that is a shame. I can certainly think of anybody that's interested in the Book Naturalist Club. This would be a companion volume for sure. Beautiful writing, very strong debut. And I finished the delightful non-binary middle grade novel from Canada, new release this year, The Fabulous Zed Watson by Basil Sylvester and their father, Kevin Sylvester. Basil Sylvester is a gender non-binary writer, and this is their first publication, and their father, Kevin Sylvester, has written other middle grade fiction over the years. This was a delight. It's a middle grade adventure story with a literary twist, so you can't help but think of some things about Harry Potter, and I don't like those kind of stories. I enjoyed it because I enjoyed the character. Zed's character was fabulous. The way that they interacted with their friends, and then they were on this road trip to solve this mystery of what happened to the novel, whose queer themes, especially transgender themes, were too controversial, and the book's author buried the manuscript and left clues decades and decades ago, like probably 60 or 70 years ago or something like that. And so these kids with the older sister of Zed's friend, go on a road trip across America to follow the clues and find the book. And to put a non-binary protagonist in the center of this adventure and show them navigating, crossing the border, the Canadian-US border, dealing with being misgendered and dead-named and all that stuff, just highlighted those issues in a way that I think a middle-grade reader, a middle-grade person could really get their head around. I think it's not only educational on that front, but it was just a rollicking good story. Really well done. I loved it. 5 stars. I'm not going to review it. It's not the kind of book that I have a lot more than what I've just said to say about it, but I really recommend it. It was a delight. And finally, quite late last night, I finished Cassandra at the Wedding by Dorothy Baker. I love this book. 5 stars. I'm obsessed with Dorothy Baker's writing, and I want to find out a whole bunch more about Dorothy Baker. I didn't think it was all that clear of a book, but it was obvious to me, but it's maybe because I was told on the back cover or on the synopsis that the protagonist, Cassandra, one of the twins who's going back to her hometown for her twin sister's wedding, that she was a lesbian, but it's not overt. It's there. But I just loved her. She was one of the word that they used for her over and over was headlong, and I think I'm going to talk about the use of that adjective, headlong, to describe a person. She was just so in your face. The vitality of Cassandra was overwhelming to everybody around her and overwhelming to me. I was so fascinated with her. I'm not sure that I loved everything about the way the story played itself out and the resolution of the story. Not enough to take a star off or anything. It's dramatic. The character of Cassandra is unforgettable. I love her, and I want to read everything Dorothy Baker wrote. She wrote lesbian pulp fiction. She wrote this and that, and she was in a long-term heterosexual marriage, and together they collaborated on literary stuff. I think biographies. I'm not sure. Again, I want to know more. But boy, this was a compulsive read for me. One of the high points of my Pride Month reading. I actually haven't decided yet whether I will do a review of it. It was published in 1962. There is an afterword by the noted short story writer Deborah Eisenberg. I haven't read it yet. I will read the afterword and then decide whether that gives me more stuff to say that I might put into a review, but I loved this. So that's what I finished. I'm also delighted to tell you about the book that I've just got a bare start on. I did have to kind of push myself and focus on those 4 books to finish them up. I didn't rush them, but I had to ignore a bunch of stuff to finish them. And so I'm only 16 pages into this, but this is the novel I've started. Marriage of a Thousand Lies by S.J. Sindu. This is a buddy read with Jeremy. We're going to be checking in, I think, next Thursday or something. So I got lots of time to read the first 135 pages. This has been sitting on my shelf, I think even since before BookTube. It was published 2017. I think I had it on my shelf even before I launched my channel in September of 2017. And I think I heard somebody review it, and it sounded too light for me. So I kind of thought, oh no, that's just kind of commercial fiction, poo-poo, snob. And I'm so glad that I'm reading it because I mean, it's 16 pages. You know my drill. I often start out really passionate about something that goes south later for me. So the jury is still out. But I can't believe how much I am in love with this woman's writing, S.J. Sindu. She was born in Sri Lanka and raised in Massachusetts, and I always say Massachusetts. I can't pronounce that, but I can pronounce Sri Lanka, I think. And this is her first novel. She has a second novel coming out in a few months. I don't remember the title. Here is the cover image. It's already on my to-buy list. I don't know anything about the author's identity, and that's fine. I have read enough fantastic fiction about gay lives, queer lives, that was written by people that didn't fit the demographic, that is no longer an issue for me, and I know that's a controversial topic, and so I'm not going to say any more about it. Whenever somebody talks about this issue, about appropriation of voice or own voices, I mean, I am so in the middle of that. Like, you tell me your opinion, oh, that sounds reasonable, yeah, I think I agree with you, and then I hear somebody else do a reasonable argument on the other side, and it's convincing. I I've decided I don't have to have an opinion on it because I understand everybody's point, but I am no longer worried about the sexuality of the author of any fiction that has gay male characters, because some of the best I've read recently was written by straight women. If, like most people I know, you've seen the 1993 movie directed by Ang Lee, The Wedding Banquet, it follows that plot line. The Wedding Banquet was a bisexual man gets married to a Chinese woman to placate his conservative parents that were wondering when he would ever get married. This one is even queerer in that both the man and the woman who get married to placate their very conservative Sri Lankan American parents are 100% Kinsey 5. I don't know, but they identify as gay and lesbian, and they get married for convenience. They're great friends, and that's the premise. Now that sounds like it's, a recipe for a rollicking commercial fiction story, and that's what I thought this would be. And I've only read 16 pages, people. That may be what it ends up being, but I was just swept away by the fantastic prose. S.J. Sindu is just a powerful writer, so I am already sucked deep into the story, and it's really, to me, going a lot deeper than just a roll that storyline would suggest into the family relationship. So I have met, so far it's narrated by the wife, by the lesbian, and her name I've just known. I don't think she's been named in the book. Lucky, it says on the synopsis. Her husband is Krishna, and I have met her family, and I have felt some things. And grandmother takes ill. She goes back to her hometown, which is Winchester near Boston, and this sentence just took my breath away. Speeding in Winchester feels like scraping the edge of a cliff, moment after moment of narrow escapes and near disasters, chasing the turn of the road, inches away from being swallowed by the night and not caring one bit. One flick of the wheel on Arlington Road and a cold lake awaits. Who do I have to live for? A crash, bang, and blackness, a final note that sounds oh so good and true. I think the sentence is gorgeous. It also kind of leads me into some dark territory in Lucky's psyche that makes me think this novel is going to go quite a bit deeper than I thought. It's starting out really good. I can't wait to check in with Jeremy. I think we're checking in on the first half of the book later next week. Well, I stopped the video, thought I was done, had everything half packed up to walk home, realized I hadn't finished. I haven't talked about what I'm going to be starting. Jesus. Maybe that was because subconsciously I was subconsciously self-conscious about telling you I'm going to be starting anything with all the books I'm reading. But my new short-term strategy to get my current reading down to a less ridiculous amount of books is only start one book for every 2 I finish. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I've finished 5 books. I'm only going to be starting 2 in the coming week. One of them is the one I held up last week as a maybe, and I didn't start it. Rawi Hage's DeNiro's Game, Madeleine Tien's partner's novel about the Lebanese Civil War. The author is Lebanese, born in Lebanon, a Lebanese-Canadian writer, and this is apparently one of his best. So I will be definitely starting this, and this is for the Lebanon part of Invisible Cities. I finished the one of the 2 lesbian novels that were on my Pride Month TBR, and I will now start the second one. Carolina Robertis' Cantoras. I found out how to pronounce her name, Robertis, I think. She is a Uruguayan American writer. I believe this might be her first novel. It caused quite a stir, it was quite well received when it was published a year or 2 ago. It's been sitting on my shelf ever since. Oh, it's not her debut. I believe this story is entirely set in Uruguay. I can't swear to it, but it certainly sounds like a very queer woman-centered novel, which is perfect for Pride Month. Now, I've said I'm only going to start 2, but if I happen to finish more books early in this week, I may get a start on the other one that I definitely want to. I'm obviously not going to be finishing it during Pride Month, but I'd like to at least start it during Pride Month, and that is The Prettiest Star by Carter Sickels. A queer, trans, male writer whose pronouns are he and him, and this is about a gay male. The protagonist is a gay man who I believe goes back to his hometown in Appalachia to die. So it's set in the mid-1980s. It's supposed to be powerful. All right, now it's time to say goodbye. So yeah, have a great week. Thanks for watching.